Is Ken Holland's ghost still haunting the Oilers front office? Or is Ken Bowman playing chess while everyone else plays checkers? The hockey world expected fireworks. Trade rumors swirled like a prairie blizzard through oil country, with Stuart Skinner's name whispered in dark corners and desperate fans refreshing their Twitter feeds every 30 seconds, waiting for the move that would save Edmonton's season. Instead, what they got was radio silence, a deafening, calculated, almost defiant silence that speaks volumes about where this franchise's head is truly at. NHL insider Elliotte Friedman dropped a bombshell on his Essential Listening 32 Thoughts podcast that has sent shockwaves through the hockey community. The Edmonton Oilers are holding fast. No major trades, no panic moves, no goalie swap just to appease the mob. Let that sink in for a moment. In an era where general managers pull the trigger faster than a gunslinger in a spaghetti western, where one bad week can cost a coach his job and 2 bad weeks can see half a roster shipped out, Edmonton is taking the road less traveled. They're betting on themselves, betting on their system, and most controversially, betting on Stuart Skinner to figure it out. Friedman, who has sources deeper in NHL front offices than oil drills in the Alberta tar sands, painted a fascinating picture of Edmonton's current mindset. According to multiple people close to the situation, the Oilers aren't just pumping the brakes on a goalie trade. They're potentially shelving any major roster moves until season's end. I had some people who said to me that they would not be surprised if Edmonton does not make any decisions like in goal or major decisions until the end of the year, Friedman revealed. They get through the year and then they make major decisions based on how everything's going. But here's where it gets spicy. Not everyone believes Edmonton's poker face. Some rival teams think the Oilers are bluffing, that they'll continue monitoring the market and pounce if the right opportunity materializes. It's a fascinating game of cat and mouse, with Bowman holding his cards close to his chest while the entire hockey world tries to read his tells. The Oilers' position, according to Friedman sources, remains crystal clear. No lateral moves. They will not, under any circumstances, trade Skinner for another goalie who brings the same question marks, the same inconsistencies, the same maybe he's good, maybe he's not uncertainty that has plagued their crease situation. And there's cold, hard financial logic backing this stance. Skinner's cap hit sits at a team-friendly $2.6 million per season, a bargain basement number in today's inflated goalie market. Most available netminders carry significantly heftier price tags, and with Edmonton's salary cap situation tighter than a drum, taking on additional money would force other painful roster decisions. It's a domino effect Bowman clearly wants to avoid. Perhaps most tellingly, Friedman emphasized a crucial detail that changes the entire narrative. Skinner hasn't asked out. The young goalie hasn't stormed into Bowman's office demanding a trade. He hasn't gone to the media. He's not sulking or pointing fingers. By all accounts, he wants to battle through this adversity and prove he belongs. I think the Oilers are holding fast, Friedman stated emphatically. They are holding fast to what they believe. One name that's been floated repeatedly in trade speculation is Laurent Brossoit, currently with the Chicago Blackhawks and recovering from hip surgery that's kept him sidelined for nearly 2 years. On paper, it makes sense Brossoit knows the organization, knows the market, and would come at minimal cost. But Friedman threw cold water on that reunion fantasy. Sources indicated Edmonton might be gun-shy about Brossoit specifically because of the John Klingberg experience from last season. Remember Klingberg? The veteran defenseman who needed months to find his game after returning from injury? The Oilers apparently remember all too well, and they're not eager to repeat that experiment between the pipes. It's a fascinating case study in organizational memory and risk assessment. Yes, Klingberg eventually found his form and contributed in the playoffs, but the road getting there was bumpy, frustrating, and filled with the kind of defensive lapses that cost games in December and January. Let's be brutally honest about the goaltending options supposedly available. They're underwhelming at best, catastrophic at worst. Jordan Binnington, the St. Louis Blues netminder, carries a massive contract, $6 million per year through 2026 to 27, and has been maddeningly inconsistent. Yes, he has a Stanley Cup ring, But he also has stretches where he couldn't stop a beach ball with a snow shovel. Tristan Jarry, the Pittsburgh Penguins goalie, is another big-money player, $5.375 million through 2027 to 28, whose performance has cratered so dramatically that Pittsburgh is actively shopping him. When the team that gave you a long-term deal is desperately trying to unload you, that's not exactly a ringing endorsement. Laurent Brossoit, as discussed, he's been out nearly 2 years with hip surgery. That's not a red flag. It's a crimson banner the size of Saskatchewan. This is the reality Bowman faces. The available options aren't solutions. They're different problems wearing different jerseys. Trading Skinner for any of these goalies would be like rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic. It might make you feel like you're doing something, but you're still headed for the iceberg. Here's a telling detail that shouldn't be overlooked. Bob Stauffer, the Oilers' radio voice and a man with his finger firmly on the organization's pulse, hasn't been beating the drum for a goalie trade on his Oilers Now show. Stauffer is typically enthusiastic about roster moves that make sense, but his measured, almost cautious approach to the goalie situation suggests he knows something the panic merchants don't. Until Stauffer starts talking with genuine enthusiasm about a specific goalie trade, smart money says it's not happening. He's too connected, too informed, and too careful with his words to get excited about a move the organization isn't seriously considering. Here's the uncomfortable truth that Edmonton needs to swallow like bitter medicine. Their problems aren't primarily in net. Yes, Skinner has had rough patches. Yes, there have been goals he should have stopped. But the real culprit for Edmonton's defensive struggles isn't the goalie, it's the chaos happening in front of him. The Oilers' defensive structure has been about as stable as a house of cards in a hurricane. Let's catalog the sins. Bad pinches that leave odd man rushes going the other way. Defensemen gambling at the offensive blue line like they're playing NHL 25 on rookie mode, only to watch in horror as opponents break free on 2-on-1s. Lazy neutral zone coverage where forwards glide by their checks like they're not even there. It's one thing to get beat by a skilled move, it's another to simply not try. 3 forwards below the goal line in the offensive zone, leaving absolutely no defensive support. It's pond hockey mentality in a professional league. Communication breakdowns that would make a dysfunctional family look coordinated. 2 players converging on the puck carrier while leaving a shooter wide open in the slot isn't a defensive system, it's organized chaos. Slot coverage that doesn't exist, the most dangerous scoring area in hockey, and the Oilers treat it like a demilitarized zone where nobody's responsible for anything. The Seattle game showed what this team is capable of when they commit to defensive discipline. They were structured, responsible, and most importantly accountable to each other. That's the formula. That's always been the formula for the past 4 years when the Oilers have been at their best. The problem isn't that they don't know how to play defense, it's that too many players are reluctant to commit to it consistently. Defense is hard work. It's unglamorous. It doesn't show up on highlight reels, but it wins championships. Edmonton has perhaps one significant trade chip to play the season, and Bowman knows it. With Jack Roslovic now in the fold, the forward group might actually be set. Why trade valuable assets for a rental winger when you have promising young talent like Quinn Hudson and Robbie Jarvany tearing up the AHL? Hudson, at 23, is absolutely dominating the minor leagues offensively. Is he not worth a look in the NHL's top 9? Connor Clattenburg is already proving he belongs at the NHL level with his grinding, energy line play. These internal options cost nothing but roster spots and might provide better value than overpaying for a veteran at the trade deadline. The defense presents a more complicated picture. This group was supposed to be elite. The offseason hype was deafening, Evan Bouchard's offensive brilliance, Matthias Ekholm's steady two-way play, Jake Wallman's puck-moving ability, Darnell Nurse's physical presence, Brett Kulak's playoff reliability. The trumpets of triumph were blaring. But here's the harsh reality. Not one of these big-name defensemen is playing better than last season. Nurse's game has regressed significantly. Wallman has struggled to find consistency. Only Ty Emberson, the unheralded addition, has genuinely elevated his play. Yet trading any of these players mid-season would be selling low and potentially devastating to team chemistry. Kulak, on his expiring contract, is the only realistic trade candidate, but do you really want to give up on a player who consistently elevates his game in the playoffs? That's when Kulak does his best work, when the games matter most. The practice lines. Wallman returns Monday's practice brought some positive news with Jake Wallman back on the ice, though notably not in the main lineup pairings. The lines and pairings showed some interesting combinations. Forwards, Savoy, McDavid, Hyman Podkolzin, Draisaitl, Mangapane Enrique, RNH, Jan-Marc Frederic Lazar, Clattenburg defense, Ekholm Bouchard Nurse, Regula Kulak, Emberson Wallman skating separately goalies. Skinner-Pickard Wallman's return adds depth, but his placement suggests the coaching staff is taking a cautious approach to reintegrating him. That's probably wise given his struggles before the injury. This brings us to the fundamental question facing the Oilers. Is standing pat a sign of confidence or complacency? The optimistic view, Bowman is playing the long game. He's not going to mortgage the future for a marginal upgrade that doesn't move the needle. He's betting that this roster, when playing to its potential and committing to defensive structure, is good enough to compete for a Stanley Cup. He's showing faith in his players and his system. The pessimistic view. The Oilers are paralyzed by indecision, too afraid to make a bold move that might backfire. They're hoping problems solve themselves rather than actively addressing them. They're wasting another year of Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl's primes by refusing to acknowledge that this roster has fundamental flaws. The truth, as always, probably lies somewhere in between. What's undeniable is that Bowman is taking a calculated risk. He's betting that Skinner will stabilize, that the defense will rediscover the form that made them so highly regarded in October, that the forward depth will hold up, and that when the playoffs arrive, this team will be ready. It's a gamble, make no mistake, but it might be a smarter gamble than trading assets for questionable upgrades in a seller's market where desperation drives up prices. The Oilers' decision to hold fast is either brilliant restraint or catastrophic negligence, and we won't know which until April and may reveal the truth. What's certain is that Bowman isn't going to panic. He's not going to make a trade just to make a trade, just to appease the masses screaming for change. The Seattle game blueprint is sitting right there, waiting to be followed. Defensive discipline, structural integrity, commitment to the system, and accountability to teammates. That's the path forward. That's how this team wins. No goalie trade will fix lazy neutral zone coverage. No deadline acquisition will solve communication breakdowns in the defensive zone. No roster shakeup will magically create slot coverage that doesn't exist. The solution is already in the locker room. It's in the practice plans. It's in the video sessions. The Oilers just need to commit to it. Every shift, every game, every night. The question isn't whether Bowman will make a trade. The question is whether this team will finally commit to the defensive excellence required to win a championship. Everything else is just noise. What do you think about the Oilers' decision to stand pat? Are they showing admirable patience or dangerous complacency? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to smash that like button if you want more hard-hitting Oilers analysis that cuts through the noise and tells you what's really happening in Oil Country.